each one of the Telegram posts that Nick has put out over the past 24 hours regarding Venezuela has gotten majority downvotes in his community, which is amazing. This guy, Nick Fuentes, he can't argue on the facts because he knows that in doing so, he's defending the financial interests of the Zionist elite, of finance capital, of the Rothschild banks and the Rothschild family, of multinational corporations that have, plundered countries X, Y, and Z for our entire lives. And the American people have had no standard of living improvement as a result of it. But American men and women have died in combat defending these companies, these multinational firms in Wall Street. So he can't defend any of this. So he just says, oh, Jackson says this is stupid. I personally love watching this because I've been calling out the Nick Fuentes psyop, the Ali Alexander defender, pedo defender, Nick Fuentes, Indian pedo defender. I've been calling out this guy for quite a while about this psyop that he's running. And, I have full trust in the masses of our country. I have full trust in the American people. I realize I'm not going to make a big deal of it because at some point people will wake up and see the light of day. That time has now come. Nick Fuentes' fans are turning on him, abandoning him, eating him alive is probably the best way of putting it, because for the first time, people are really seeing just how much. I think people gave him some leeway after he lied about, he fully defended Kash Patel and the FBI during the Charlie Kirk investigation. People were like, that's kind of weird when right after Charlie Kirk was unalived, he said we need mass censorship in the U.S. People were like, that's kind of weird when he was, condemning Russian aggression against NATO over a fake story about a drone attack that ended up being like Polish disinformation. But now people are like, all right, step too far, cross the line, it's done, generational run over, and this is what we get now. So this is pretty incredible. Let's start off here. So we've got the Nick Fuentes Telegram, which this is just pure gold. Okay, so the first one is him attacking me and Alex Jones. So I want you to understand what's going on. Nick, he possesses a very real inability to actually argue the points that are being made about Venezuela. That being that what's going to happen in Venezuela, possibly, U.S. occupation, U.S. forces being deployed there, maybe, who knows. But the real thing that's happening here is these major hedge funds, multinational corporations, companies like BlackRock, Paul Singer, you name it, they are going to go in and they're going to destroy the state-owned infrastructure in Venezuela. They're going to strip it of all of its assets. They're going to rip it apart, sell it for pennies on the dollar. Oil prices are not going to drop. We're not going to increase the exports of oil, just like we didn't really do that in Iraq in any meaningful way. Iraqi, U.S. infrastructure was not, radically developed in Iraq or something like that, or in Syria. We did not really get a lot out of those countries in terms of oil. And what's gonna happen is exactly what happened to Citgo. They're going to effectively, do fire sales of these companies. They're going to take them over. Companies that are worth $20 billion are going to get seized for $5 billion, or they're going to be, international settlement courts like the ICSID, which is going to rule on behalf of Crystal X and ExxonMobil and Statoil, these various companies that have claims against the Venezuelan state. And they're going to go in there. They're going to just make billions and billions of dollars stripping these state-owned companies of their assets. And the American public is not going to get cheap oil. All right, that's just what's going to happen here. Now, if U.S. forces do go in and try to occupy to protect these assets that they will secure rent from, like parasites, that will also be bad and result in American lives. There's no way to spin it. But here's what we have right now, okay? So he writes, the dialectic is Alex Jones claiming that Maduro was captured to testify about how he helped Democrats steal the 2020 election. Obviously absurd. Which Alex, by the way, did claim that. And Jackson Hinkle claiming that Maduro was captured because he was in possession of the Epstein files. Well, I mean, it's no secret that the Trump administration, it's been revealed, released less than like 0.10% of the Epstein files, right? Pam Bondi just came out and said that there's 5 million pages that they still need to go through and, look for redactions and whatnot. So they're going to hire like 4,000 attorneys at the Department of Justice. But the truth of the matter is, I mean, of course, anything to distract from Trump's sinking poll numbers is obviously in the interest of Trump at that explicit moment. But the truth is, it's not what it's about. And I never made the argument that that's what it's about. But this guy, Nick Fuentes, he can't argue on the facts because he knows that in doing so, he's defending the financial interests of the Zionist elite, of finance capital, of the Rothschild banks and the Rothschild family, of multinational corporations that have, plundered countries X, Y, and Z for our entire lives. And the American people have had no standard of living improvement as a result of it. But American men and women have died in combat defending these companies, these multinational firms in Wall Street. So he can't defend any of this. So he just says, oh, Jackson says this is stupid. Okay. Now going on here, you'll begin to see an interesting trend. Each one of the Telegram posts that Nick has put out over the past 24 hours regarding Venezuela has gotten majority downvotes in his community, which is amazing. Okay. So here you have a real brainiac. Nick Fuentes says, well, this is actually really pissing me off. Russia can invade a country, killing millions. Hamas can kill hundreds of Israelis and take hostages, and Luigi can murder a healthcare exec in cold blood. But if America kidnaps one fat little Mexican, that's beyond the pale. Venezuela is literally built on kidnapping, by the way. We can do whatever the fuck we want. We are America. I like that Trump decided to kidnap Maduro because he was dancing. Wake up, bitch. You are under arrest. Just getting fed the goy slop and regurgitating it to his audience, hoping and believing that they will also fall victim to the Ben Shapiro Hasbara cope. But his audience, I guess, is smarter than that. Russia, let's start off here. Russia can invade a country, killing millions. The Ukrainian military has probably, killed in action of about 1 million total, maybe not a million. If you're taking total casualties, yes, it's over 1 million for sure, but killing millions. So he's lying about Russia, claiming they're killing millions of people. He says Hamas, so he's defending Israel. He's defending the Israeli narrative about October 7th. And then goes on to say that, we just kidnapped Maduro because he was dancing. Who believes that? That's just CIA propaganda. Oh, Trump kidnapped him because he was offended by his dances. I didn't think he was that stupid. Here we have another one. Normies memorize the anti-war slogans without actually understanding the arguments against war. The reason the Iraq war was a mistake is because it cost trillions of dollars, killed thousands of soldiers, created a quagmire with no exit strategy, and wasn't even in our best interest. Hemispheric defense is in our best interest. This operation had 0 casualties. It lasted hours and cost no money. You could make the case that invading Iraq was a war for Israel, but a coup in Latin America can convincingly be called a war for America. Incorrect. This is a war for Wall Street. This is a war for the hedge fund firms. This is a war for every single company like ExxonMobil and the mining companies that have debt claims against the Venezuelan government and are going to steal their resources in their companies, their state-owned companies, to get profits to the shareholders. It's just as simple as that. Now, the hilarious part about this is it's giving George Bush mission accomplished. We went in and it was just a few hours and that was it. Well, we'll see how that stands up against time. George Bush, 6 weeks after the invasion of Iraq, said mission accomplished. We know how that ended. But there you go. Another stupid 4.75 thousand dislikes there, 6,000 dislikes on the last Telegram post. Here's another great one. I don't know. I just thought we were all on the same page. I cheered for Russia's invasion of Ukraine because that is a legitimate defense of Russian interests and its contested sphere of influence. I feel similarly about Venezuela. Another brain dead response here from Fuentes that got 5,000 dislikes. Russia, notice how he turned the comments off, by the way. Russia was being threatened by Kamala Harris at the NATO summit in Vilnius that they were about to bring Ukraine into NATO and place nukes on the Russian border. 15,000 Ukrainian civilians in the Donbass, ethnic Russians, had been killed since the 2014 coup, which was backed by the United States. We don't need to repeat this stuff because Nick, who's watching, already knows this, but he's trying to conflate the two things. He's trying to conflate hedge funds, BlackRock, Rothschilds coming into Venezuela to strip all the assets and make billions of dollars is the same thing as stopping nukes from being placed in Ukraine right on the Russian border. Not the same thing at all. If Venezuela, the government, had killed like 15,000 Venezuelan exiles living in Doral, Florida, okay, that's an argument. that would be a bold enough action for the U.S. to justify its operation, yes. But none of that happened, right? So conflating the two things, just brain dead Reddit logic here. And one more here. Imagine being the dictator of a major country and you are literally pulled out of your bed in pajamas in the middle of the night like a fucking bitch, and then they blindfold you and deliver you to the president of the universe in a sack. Bro was screaming, "Come get me." So Jester. So if you're wondering what Jester means, by the way, if you are an older viewer, Jester is internet jargon popularized by a young streamer named Clavicular, which is just hilarious because now Nicholas J. Fuentes, 27-year-old, by the way, almost 30 years old, is trying to use the slang of like some 18-year-old kid to justify the Zioslav Hasbara propaganda about Venezuela. And still, his own audience is downvoting it with 5,000 dislikes. It's honestly music to my ears. I love to see it. It's absolutely amazing. No one is buying the slop this kid is putting up anymore. And rightfully so. Rightfully so. So there you go. Attacking me, getting ratioed by his own community in the process. Beautiful music to my ears. Before you leave, I want to say thank you for the support, because after 2 years of being banned, we are finally back home on YouTube. So be sure to subscribe to our channel and also join as a member on our channel using the link at the top of the description. I rely on the generous support of viewers like yourself to get the truth out to as many people as possible. You can also support the show on Locals or Give Sin Go. The mainstream media and the powers that be are never going to stop attacking us for bringing the truth to as many people as we do. Thank you so much for your support.